People come from all walks of life. They all have lives they lead. Any and all are welcome here to come and chat with me.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show. I'm in the process of reading this book, Fly With Me, and it's One Woman's Leap into a Life of Love and Joy. And I have to say that the format is really different because it's a combination of prose and poetry. And for some reason, it really works well, which is something I like, getting something different, you know. And I'm happy to say the author is here today from California, Teresa Martin. Welcome to the show, Teresa.
Thank you so much, Nancy. I'm just so happy to be here. Love your show.
Oh, thanks. Oh, I appreciate that. Sorry about the stumbling at the beginning. I often do that. So, first of all, why did you write the story, the book?
I wrote it because last year when COVID was unfolding, I'm a nurse, I'm on the front lines. I felt that it was time for me to really do some reflection, inward reflection, and say, what's going on inside of me? What am I thinking? What am I feeling? Because it really turned the whole world upside down, and it continues to do so. And what came out was poetry, and the poems just kept coming and coming. And I had actually not written poetry before. I didn't even realize that that's how I think. I actually think in poems, but didn't really ever put them on the page.
Right.
And once they started flowing out of me, I thought, I'm really healing from this experience of what I'm going through as a nurse on the front lines. I'm healing from my past, my present, and my future all at the same time. It was such a powerful tool to find my love and my joy amidst all these other things going on in the world. So I thought I just had to get out. I had to get it out. I had to get it out and let other people know that there's really unusual ways to find your own sense of healing. And mine was poetry.
Yeah, really. And I think about, like, when I was younger, I used to write poetry all the time, and it is really cathartic, I think.
It is, and it's cathartic in a way that I was not expecting. It was almost like the rhythm of speaking it out loud and talking about it even inside of my head and then speaking it to audiences has been such a healing effect for me and others.
I just sort of like how you reflect, and not only reflect, but you change from being in a bad place, say with one of your parents, to now in that place of love and forgiveness.
And it was the poems that did it. It was really about addressing what is the old baggage, kind of. It's like a sculpture. It's like once you put the words on a page, you put it in your hands, you can look at it from all different angles and say, wow, I can really put this over here, and I'm okay. And I'm going to grow from this and love and be filled with joy. And it was really a transformative process for me.
So how long did it take you to go through that transformance?
Well, I ended up taking about 6 months off during the beginning of COVID, before things got real here in Los Angeles, and really devoting myself to this idea of strengthening my own armor and strengthening my own heart so that I could go back on the front lines. So about 6 months of really full-time writing. And then I went back once COVID got real here in Los Angeles back in October, November. It was time for me to get back on the front lines and help out my brothers and sisters. And that's when kind of the publishing took off, which is a different stage of the writing process.
Right. Yeah, I'm just thinking about, like, I might just steal your idea, you know, about...
That's the whole point of the book, is to show other folk that there's so much we have to offer. I never, as a nurse, I thought all I have to offer is being at the bedside and doing what I need to do to help this person. I didn't realize that I could impact so many more people about writing about it. And the American Nurses Association, nurse.org, all these other agencies have been picking up my chapter on nursing and putting it out there and saying nurses reflecting on who they are as human beings is a part of this whole process of healing from what we've gone through.
Yeah, for sure. So speaking of nursing, now, if you don't mind, I'd like to talk about that a little bit. At what point did you decide that you wanted to get into nursing?
Well, it's kind of a family business. I was raised by a doctor and a nurse, so I've always kind of been at the bedside. My grandfather's a doctor and my grandmother's a nurse. And we had patients, old school, rural Illinois, you know, similar to the medicine, the healthcare I've received in Canada, which is a little bit more old school. You just show up, someone takes care of you. We don't talk about money and insurance, and we'll figure it out later, how everyone survives. And that's how I was raised by a country doc. And that is just always been in my bones. The most powerful thing I saw both of them do was listen. So my first degree, I was a therapist, and I felt that that was the most important piece for me, was this idea of listening. And then later on, I felt the mental health approach wasn't going to really be 100%. I couldn't be 100% there for you mentally if I didn't understand what was going on with you physically. So I went back to school and became a nurse. So it's kind of always been in my bones, but it's been a progress. It's kind of been a progression throughout my lifespan. So I've been a nurse now for about a dozen years.
I was just going to ask that question.
About a dozen years. And I've done rural healthcare. I've done urban healthcare. I've done clinics. I've done hospital. I've done women's health, hospice. So in those dozen years, I've really been kind of seeing the whole lifespan, and on two different, West Coast, East Coast, New Mexico. I've kind of been all over the place. So it's been a really good nursing experience for me. It's helped me prepare me for what we've been facing the last year.
Yeah, and that's been a challenge for everybody, especially frontliners, right?
I think what I see outsider looking in is that everyone has been so deeply affected, they're not actually even aware of it.
Right.
The awareness is not there. I've seen folks transition, nurses, docs, medical techs, pharmacists, you name it, all of us, going from being kind of a mellow California surfer type to now being kind of irritable and being a little uptight and being a little bit, bouncy on ideas. And as I watch people literally change, I think, wow, we're not even aware of how much this stress that we're carrying is impacting who we are as people. So I'm always trying to bring them back and say, hey, let's go surfing. let's get back into our groove.
Right. So now we're taping this at the beginning of August. So what are things like there currently in Los Angeles?
So we are bracing for the third wave. We had a really hard October, November, December, January, really hard. Right. All the ICU units were full. We never ran out of equipment, but it was very, very difficult for our community here in Los Angeles County. Then once the vaccine was introduced, we have about half of our county is vaccinated at this point. So we saw the numbers drop dramatically. We had no COVID patients at my hospital, which is a large one, for several weeks, which was fantastic. And then of course, Delta has arrived, the Delta variant, and we're seeing the numbers start to tick up. We're concerned with only half of our county vaccinated that we're going to see the Delta variant start to take over again. So we're all bracing, just kind of waiting. So our numbers are rising. I think it's up about 2,000%, but again, that's from zero. So those numbers are a little deceiving.
Right. Now, there's a bit of a controversy, not only in the US, but here in Canada as well, about should all frontliners, nurses, or whatever, be vaccinated. And I don't think you have to be here. Do you have an opinion on that?
So there's actually our nursing association, the medical association, everyone that really guides our policies and ethics as medical frontliners has come out and said, you have to be vaccinated. They've come out very strongly in favor of vaccination for frontline workers. I agree with that position. I understand why legislation has not been passed to not support that, but I think that we're moving in that direction. As a nurse, I have to have Hep B vaccines. I have to have my MMR. There's so many vaccines that I have to have so that I don't transmit it to my patients. It's just another one of those vaccines. And I can appreciate that we're probably moving in that direction.
Right. Because that's the thing I didn't understand is why some people are against this one as compared to others that you have to have, right?
Well, in this country, most of the hesitation is because it has not been FDA approved, which is the final seal of approval that it's safe. So that's really, I think once the FDA approves it, I think anyone who's hesitant, I think will jump on the bandwagon. I'm hoping. And actually these numbers are so small who's not vaccinated that it feels a little bit like the story isn't telling about, the 90+% of us who are vaccinated on the front lines. The story seems a little out of touch that I've been seeing in the news. Because I think at my hospital, I don't know any nurses and doctors who aren't vaccinated. There might be a handful, but not many.
Well, I just find it interesting, like, again, here in BC, okay, we're told we don't have to wear our masks if we've been double vaccinated. And mind you, when I go into a store, I still do, okay, because I don't know who's in there that hasn't been vaccinated, but a lot of people don't. And then suddenly numbers start to pick up again.
I know.
Right? And I think if they would just be flat out say, keep it on until, this number of people have been vaccinated, wouldn't you think that would be just the best way to go about it?
We do. And, unfortunately, I'm a palliative and a hospice nurse. So I'm part of the specialty team that gets called in to talk to families about your loved one's not going to make it.
Right.
And here's your options. Here's your choices. How would you like to proceed as a family? And how can we best support you emotionally and physically through this process? So I'm part of the team that's having those hard conversations. And if families could just see what we see, I think that everyone would be vaccinated.
Yeah.
You just see what we see every day. And many of us are not good storytellers. That's my next book is really going to be all about caregiving. I know. And it's really going to be like, see what I see, hear what I hear.
Right.
And I think that maybe your decision making as a caregiver and a patient may change. So that's our next book.
I'm so happy you mentioned the next book because I was going to ask that. I was going to change the topic and say, do you have a next book in mind?
Do, and it's called Gertie's Guide. Gertie, in memory of my grandmother, who's Gertrude. Everyone called her Gertie, and she was my first patient. I helped her at the bedside when she went through cancer and hospice care.
Right.
And so it's really the lessons I learned from her as being an elder wise woman about, hey, I'm the patient. Listen to me. Look at me. Let's work this out together. Don't tell me what to do, you little whippersnapper. And so it's really from her point of view, it's humorous because she was a very funny woman. And it's all about the lessons of caregiving. And it's really about just seeing what I see through a patient's eyes and hearing what I hear and just the lessons that my patients have given me through all of these years that I've been working either as a therapist or a nurse.
Oh, that's marvelous. Oh, I hope you'll come back on and talk about that one.
Absolutely. And I'm actually co-authoring it with an artist. And so we would both love to be back.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So at least I know what your next, part of your future plans are. Writing another book. That is really good. And I hope everything goes well where you are.
Thank you. I would like to make a plug for a group that I'm donating all the proceeds of my book to, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
So all the proceeds from my book, Fly With Me, are being donated to the Kung Fu Nuns.
So hold on. I need you to I'll get you to spell it out for me in an email so I can include that. Okay.
I found through my work, there's a poem that if you haven't read the whole book, you haven't got to it because it's at the end, called The Kung Fu Nuns.
Oh, it's in the book. Okay.
And they are a group of Buddhist nuns in the Himalayas who are fighting for women's rights and equality in their part of the world. And they're doing it through many different ways.
Right.
And I've been so impressed and so taken with the work they're doing that I just spoke with one of the representatives last night, and I'll be donating the proceeds from this book to them.
Very nice.
Really amazing. They are the frontline workers for COVID, and they're not nurses.
Right.
They're nuns
who
are just getting basic education on how to prevent transmission and infection, good infection control practices. Mm-hmm. And they're out there fighting the good fight. So
that's awesome. Well, I'll make sure that's included. Yeah.
Check them out. They're amazing. Thank you.
Thanks again for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Nancy. I really appreciate it. Love your show.
Thanks so much. And thanks for watching. Thank you, everybody, for watching the show. Hope you'll come back and watch it again. Until then, peace out, everyone.
A sense of community, Chilliwack's a place to be. A sense of community where you're free. Rolling through the mountains, rolling through the valley, rolling through paradise with me. It's multicultural, you're sure to see it all. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see. Come party in the park, go dancing after dark. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see.